And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Okay, for Friday, we've got IFR, Bering Sea, right into the west and southwest interior, and then marginal VFR for the central part of the state here over toward the east, and then some areas of IFR in toward Canada. IFR starting out Cook Inlet down to Kodiak Island, some IFR for the North Gulf Coast, and the southeast coast, VFR in the south, marginal in the north. For the afternoon, not too bad here, mostly VFR for the southeast coast for Friday afternoon. North Gulf Coast, marginal into the Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, southern Susitna Valley, VFR. Most of the interior, marginal VFR. Arctic coast, IFR. And that extends along the northwest coast through the Bering Strait, south side of the Seward Peninsula, all of the Bering Sea into the Aleutians, forecast to be IFR. And that even comes up into Bristol Bay along the north side of the Alaska Peninsula. And then for the day on Saturday, we've got IFR right along the Arctic coast there and over the Brooks Range. IFR, Seward Peninsula, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Bristol Bay down into Kodiak Island, and lower conditions now over south central Alaska. A little bit better along and just north of the Alaska Range there. And the southeast coast, mostly VFR. And for the afternoon, good VFR here for the Panhandle for the afternoon on Saturday. East side, VFR, central interior, marginal. Out to the west, solid IFR again from the Chukchi Sea. And right along the Arctic coast, all the way down across the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and also up to southwest Kodiak Island with another branch up into the Gulf of Alaska. Passes Anatuvik-Anadigan, starting out IFR and then possibly gradually improving to marginal VFR for the afternoon for both passes. And Lake Clark and Merrill, mostly marginal for the day. Friday, forecast good also for rainy. Marginal VFR, windy as well. And Isabel, marginal VFR at times. Mentasta, occasionally marginal, other times VFR, trending toward VFR through the afternoon. And for Tanita, marginal VFR, marginal for Portage, and pretty marginal for the Chilkoot and White passes. Freezing levels, 12,000 feet here, right up into the southwest interior, falling back to about 4,000 feet over toward the Arctic coast, and the southeast coast around 8,000 feet. From there, going to icing, and some pretty good considerable moderate rime icing here, moving on to the western Arctic coast and north slope areas. And then another zone here could bring some isolated moderate rime ice into the Alaska Peninsula, and yet another zone farther out there to the west. Taking a look at the jet stream here, narrow ridge of high pressure at 33,000 feet over the Gulf of Alaska, Kenai Peninsula. So that brings westerly winds at about 95 knots over the northern Bering Sea, and then northwest 100 knots there over the eastern Arctic coast and north slope areas. And for 9,000 feet, good westerly flow continues here across the northern and central Bering Sea. Actually, all of the Bering Sea here up to 60 knots there just north of St. Matthew Island, and about 40 to 45 knots there just north of the Aleutians. And that band extends through the central interior, anywhere from 40 to 50 knots here at 9,000 feet, and west winds 35 knots over the northern Panhandle. And for 3,000 feet, west-southwest winds 35 to 40 knots here from the northern Bering Sea, right in across the north-central interior areas, lighter to the south, lighter to the north, and pretty light for the southeast coast there. And for the Aleutians, westerly winds 30 to 35 knots. And for turbulence, could be some considerable moderate turbulence here, Upper Tanana Valley, Alaska Range into the possibly the 40-mile country up toward the Yukon Flats there, as well as over the western Brooks Range area. Otherwise, pretty smooth for the Panhandle, southern Alaska, as well as the Bering Sea.